Hello and welcome to Sharon, Massachusetts. In this video I want to tell you a little more about Mann's family, Mann's pond on Billings Street. This is the image. It is a beautiful area, especially in fall. The colors are amazing. Here is a map of the properties that have very strong connection. They are all connected to Mann's family. On this aerial map you can see how incredible the greenery is and how close those properties are. So if you drive on Billings Street you cannot miss the pond, and there are few parking spots, so I would recommend you park there. This video is a mixture of short videos and images. If you would like to spend more time on any of the slides, just use the pause play button. So this is site of Mann's mill. There's very rich history with different mills being built on the property, and I will tell you a little bit more in a second. This photograph is from 1880s, 1890s, and it is Billings Street, or what we know now as Billings Street. So imagine you are driving from the center of town down the hill on Billings, and on the right side in the picture you can see Mann's mill. This is an image of a map from 1890, and you can see the well-established mill and other properties that I will talk about. Here is again the aerial map with the Mann's pond in the red circle. Many of you probably know this incredible granite arch. Unfortunately, it's a little overgrown right now, and many of you probably walk on this dam that's supposed to be 23 feet tall. Here's a photograph of the dam from 1940s. Apparently kids had fun jumping from one column to the other. So this dam is built on Massapoag Brook, which comes from Massapoag Lake. It is fifth privilege on the brook, and it was owned by Mann's family, or rather George R. Mann, and he was a successful businessman. His family ran the business for many years and they were very influential in the community. They also donated other properties. So I have to give you a little bit of background on the area. So in 1801, Paul Revere established his copper works in Canton, and he purchased all the water power from the Commonwealth. He also claimed water rights all the way to Lake Massapoag. So after years of lots of arguing, discussions, and many attempts by various people trying to purchase the water rights, finally in 1831, George R. Mann bought from Paul Revere's son, Joseph Warren Revere, the stream privilege. It is on a brook that's called Massapoag. So in 1831-1832, George Mann built a factory, the first Mann's cotton mill, and put in machinery, and he manufactured a bed or mattress ticking. Unfortunately, in 1840, a fire destroyed the factory, but the following year a new factory was built on the old foundation. By the way, there are some disputes where exactly the first mill was and the second one, but we believe it was under the dam, somewhere midway on the brook. If you actually walk under the dam, there's a small path. Thank you, Friends of Conservation, for upkeeping it. You can find those boulders. So one theory is that that was the location of the original mill. However, if you look at old maps, you can find the building more to the right side, closer to the road. Deborah Sampson Road was built in 1860. Apparently the wheel survived the fire and was reused in the new mill. So that new mill, the second one, was built in 1841. While they were putting new machinery in the mill, Mann and his sons were grinding corn and rye for local communities. I like to put faces next to names. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of William. In 1844, George Mann and his family rebuilt the mill and they started manufacturing a cotton sail duck, which is a fabric that's made from cotton. It is lighter than canvas and heavier than sailcloth. They added new machinery, looms and twisters, which made the work much more efficient. In 1846, when the father retired, his sons, George Mann and William R. Mann, took over. They enlarged the business and then put in new looms, and they were able to make sail deck as much as 44 inches wide. In 1856, the settling of the building was causing high maintenance expenses, so the brothers built a new factory at a new location on the pond. So these pictures are the new location. So the sons took really good care of the business, and from 1857 to 1900, they ran very successful business, delivering goods weekly. Within 1 year, means 1858, they were pumping out 3,000 pounds of deck a week. The Mann brother recruited workers, mostly female from Maine. The young girls worked until they were married, and then they recruited more. So this successful business continued until 1900s. Unfortunately, Southern Cotton Mill was too of a strong competition and Mann's business was not profitable. The brothers were also in the late 70s and there was need for new technology. So the manufacturing of the cotton duck was not profitable at that point and both brothers retired from the business. Unfortunately, the building burned down in 1919. When you stand on the dam facing the water, meaning the pond, there's a little corner where an ice house used to be. This is one of the few pictures we have of it. So ice houses were traditionally used in New England for storing ice. Workers in the wintertime would harvest large blocks of ice, 300 to 400 pounds, and they would store them in ice houses and pack them with sawdust. And then in the summer or April, May, they would use it for cooling their drinks or in their cool houses. This is where you can hike and you will see a bunch of granite stones. That is possible the location of the ice house. So I just kind of wanted to point out a few things to you. If you go for a walk, there's definitely lots of history to explore. It's a really fun hunt actually for the kids. I usually tell them look for stones that have holes in them or ridges that were man-made. So the next property I would like to mention is a dye house, which was just below what is now called Deborah Sampson Road. So this building was used for dyeing the fabric. And if you go for a hike on the lower Massapequa Trail, you will find traces of it. You will still find the granite stones. And here are a few photographs of the culvert that goes under Billings Street. So you can see how it changed a bit. However, it's called Massapequa Brook, but after the bridge, I believe it changes into Sapu Brook. So when you are facing the dam on the left side, there is a little path uphill to Deborah Sampson Street, and you can get on Mann's Hill Road, and that will take you to this property, which is 34 and 36 Mann's Hill Road. It is a duplex that was built in 1831 with incredible granite stones and wood structure on the first floor. That was the building for Mann's workers. He actually built it at the same time as his residency, and he built 4 other properties like this on the same road. They are basically neighboring properties. If I am correct, these properties were for their workers, and as we read at one point, they had over 50 employees. So dividing by 8, meaning each half of the duplex, so 4 houses that were duplexes, that would work to 6 adult occupants on each side, basically. So you can only imagine that the building was quite cramped. However, for those days, it's very incredible that the employer built a housing for the workers. That said, I'm sure he employed people that already lived in Sharon. So another property that was part of Mann's business is this incredible house on East Street. It is number 228, and the house was built in 1831. So the architects would describe this building as Italiante architecture, which was popular in 19th century, and it was inspired by 16th century Italian Renaissance architecture combined with picturesque influence from the farmhouses of the Tuscan countryside. The other word that architects use is Second Empire architecture, which is also known as Napoleon III style. It's basically very eclectic style that is using different historical styles and also very innovative use of modern materials such as iron frameworks and glass skylights. It's a really amazing house, and what is interesting curiosity about it is that in this little tower on the top that you can see, there was a huge cistern with water that was that went down because of gravity, and apparently this is the first house in Sharon that had running water. There was huge pride of having a first house with running water in the toilet, which is pretty amazing. So this is the view from the other side. As you can see, it's a pretty cute house, well built, and it's going to be 200 years very soon. The owners take pride in history and take good care of it, and they kept many of the features, even though they did put swimming pool on the back, and they also upgraded the kitchen to suit the owner's cooking hobby. The owners have pretty cool gardens. These are, for example, fig trees, and you can find other fruit-bearing trees. Really incredible house, and the garden as well. So the Mann residence, where George R. Mann lived with his wife, sits on 2 acres. The property was much bigger, and it reached all the way to where Mann's Hill Crescent is now. So all those properties were originally part of Mann's family property. I would like to mention that you're welcome to admire this house. However, please stay on the road on East Street. This is a private residence and nobody wants to be bothered. The other part of the property is this incredible barn that was built in 1876. It is still standing. It's large. It has got another level above, so storage below the main floor of the barn and upstairs. Apparently, at one point, they stored an airplane in it. So you can only imagine how big it really is. I just let you enjoy it. I took a few short videos of the building itself. I think it's pretty interesting that the barn was usually much bigger than the house itself. The amount of space that was used for farming equipment as well as other tools, most likely, and cars, sleds, and whatever they were using. By the way, both sons lived on East Street right across from this property, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were actually using the barn as well. That was pretty handy. You can see the other properties right across on the old maps that I just posted. So here is a little map basically to show you how you get from East Street to Mann's Pond. I imagine that the owner, Mr. George R. Mann, this is the way he walked to work basically, which is pretty interesting. So this is the Mann's Hill Road meets Deborah Sampson Road, and right there between the rocks you can find a path to get you down on to Mann's Pond. So this is one of the last pictures, and here I just made a little map to show you how you can walk, so you can park on the parking lot and make this loop. This is just for a little curiosity to show you how incredible nature is. So the first photograph is from 2019 and the second one is 3 years later. It's amazing that if we don't take care of those properties, nature will take over. I would like to thank to Sharon Friends of Conservation as well as Boy Scouts who take care of our local trails, and they did a great job on this property. When you walk in the area, pay attention to poison ivy and avoid it if you can. And also look for signs of history of splitting of the granite, like holes that look like this. It's pretty cool to search for them. And these are some artifacts and documents that we have at the museum, and you are welcome to visit Sharon Historical Society and our museum at 16 High Street. We are open on Saturdays and Sundays, and we would love to chat with you and answer any questions about history of Sharon, especially Mann's family. Thank you for watching Sharon Local History.